Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you on No Soundbites Allowed. I thank you for joining me once again. So today I want to take a little bit of time. We know there's always coronavirus. There's always the coronavirus on the news. We're not going to talk about that. There's plenty of people every day talking about nothing but coronavirus. 60 days later, I'm ready to go on to something else. So let's talk about what's going on with our election, the 2020 election. It's vital. It's important. It's one of the biggest things that's happening in America, especially when you add in the component of coronavirus. Whether or not people will be able to go out and vote, whether they have to vote by mail or in person. And there's issues about voting by mail and absentee ballots. I mean, there was a recent study, 28,000 absentee ballots were found, never counted. There's a problem. And we've seen consistently that progressives and Democrats have said they want to make sure everyone's going to have a vote. We got to extend the amount of days that people can vote, which did not increase the number of people that voted. And we have to make it easier for people to vote, which did not increase the number of people who voted. And now we have, the primaries coming up here in New York State, the bluest of blue states. And what did the Democratic Party say? What did the progressives say? Shut it down. Don't give people a choice. Don't give them a vote. They don't get to vote. That's kind of stunning. I mean, from the same people who are upset about voter IDs, but want you to have an ID to get tested for coronavirus and to prove that you're corona negative, they're the same people who say you can't have an ID to go out and vote. That's really interesting. Same people who want to make sure that illegal aliens have IDs so that they can drive don't want you to have a vote, an ID to vote. They want everyone to vote, whether you're from America, you're from overseas, doesn't really matter. I mean, in California, they have instituted in many cities the ability for people who are illegal aliens to be able to vote in local races. And that's been tossed around in a few places that are Democratic-held strongholds. And we know that even in New York State and many states, it's as simple as when the illegal alien goes for an ID, all they have to do is check a box and they are now registered to vote. Maybe someone catches it. Maybe not. But that's something that they can do. They can go right on out there and they can just check the box and they'll go in. Matter of fact, for people who are unemployed right now, 36 million Americans are unemployed. In New York State, if you go online and you're filling out the form, one of the things it will ask you as you're filing for unemployment is, do you want to register to vote? Because they want to make it easy. So you can go and register to vote. Okay, you're going to register and vote. But an illegal alien who's filing for unemployment can register to vote. And again, maybe he gets caught. Maybe not. So this is a concern. With the concern, we have to look at, with so many people, they're trying to get so many people out there to vote, vote, vote. Why is it that in New York State, the Democratic Party shut down the ability of rank and file members to actually vote? And that just came up. That was this month in May. That the Democratic Party decided unilaterally, because New York State is run by Democrats right now, they have the majority, and they unilaterally are going through and just making decisions. And they just made a decision for all of their voters that they don't get to speak, that they had no voice whatsoever. A lot of people missed that news. Probably as many people who missed the news that when they did that, there was an outrage, there was an outcry. People like Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders said, you can't do that. You just can't disenfranchise millions of voters. You can't set a precedent of removing voters, of just taking away their choice. And so they sued. And when they sued, they got a response, surprisingly quickly, especially with the coronavirus going on and with courts being shut down, they got a quick answer. And as was revealed on the 5th, which a lot of people haven't talked about since the 5th, that I've been able to notice, is that a judge came out and said, no, you can't do that. You cannot deprive millions of residents the right to vote, which is what the Democratic Party did. And they thought no one would notice it. They deprived millions of people the right to vote. So they came back. It's Manhattan. It was Manhattan Federal Court Judge Annalisa Torres said, no, there's going to be a primary. The Democratic Party is going to have a primary, and there are going to be 8 candidates on that ballot, and they're going to be able to vote. And the people, the rank and file Democrat members, are going to be able to vote for that. And they're going to pick whoever they pick. Isn't that interesting? And Democrats don't know what to say. They're shocked. They're amazed. Because, Biden's the choice. We told you Biden would be your choice, but no. Because the Democrats, the rank and file members, still get to make a choice about what they believe in, what issues they think should be on the ballot, and who gets to represent those issues. That was the whole argument of Andrew Yang, backed up by the Bernie bros with Bernie Sanders. And the judge said, no, Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, they're right. They get to be on the ballot. They get to have people vote for them and their issues so that Biden and the Democratic Party, when they announce their nominee, that nominee is going to have a platform that includes things like the universal basic income, that's going to have things like socialism. It's going to have the Green New Deal. It's going to have these as their primary issues. And that's what they're going to run on against President Trump. I find that quite interesting. I find it quite interesting because it's the Democrats that have consistently told us, Republicans are evil. Anyone who's not a Democrat is evil. Anyone who is not allowing a blanket uniform, everyone can vote. I mean, it was, just a year or two ago that they were saying they wanted to lower the age to vote down to 16. Mind you, they wanted to raise the age to drink and to own firearms to 21 or older, 25. So you had more people able to vote who had no idea what's going on, but they don't get to be adults. They don't get to vote. It's very interesting that if you watch the progression over time, Democrats consistently have been saying, yeah, you can vote if you vote our way, if you're going to vote for what we want. And this is happening at a very interesting time. And I say that because, as we all know, Joe Biden has got issues. And this was from out of the LA Progressive on, I believe it was the 5th. The article came out, Joe Biden, he must step aside now. Progressives don't want Joe Biden to be there. A lot of people don't want Joe Biden to be the nominee. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of the people are saying that because they think that, Joe Biden, he's a gaffe machine. And that's not a question. We've known this for decades. Joe Biden has always been, he's been in office, 30 years, 40 years, and has consistently, been a horrible gaffe machine. And currently, on any given day, in any given interview, he doesn't quite seem to know where he's at or what he's saying. We've heard the quotes from him on big issues. Have no idea what he's talking about. No one does. So that is a great reason why they don't want him, because Joe Biden is not a progressive. He's moved towards the left, but he isn't a progressive. He is a liberal. But that's not good enough for them. He's not Bernie Sanders. He's not Green New Deal. He's not raise taxes on the rich even more than he normally would say. He's not universal basic income. So we look at that and you have to say, well, is that enough? Yeah, so it's the LA Progressive. I mean, that's not the New York Times, except the New York Times came out and they made their own statement. I believe Tara Reade. I'm voting for Joe Biden anyway. Really? Linda Hirschman, in an opinion in the New York Times, came out and said and this was on May 6th, just yesterday. She goes, yeah, she believes Tara Reade. She absolutely believes Tara Reade. But she's going to vote for Joe Biden, which I am baffled by. I am baffled. And there are many Democrats who feel just that way. That, yeah, they believe the evidence because Democrats told them, you have to believe the woman. You have to believe her. This goes back to Kavanaugh. You have to believe the woman. In this case, this woman, Tara Reade, actually has evidence. Well, some evidence. She has people who corroborate her story, who back up that she told them about this at the time that it happened, not 30 years after the fact, not 20 years after the fact. She has witnesses that say, hey, she was talking about this, which is leaps and bounds more information that Blasey Ford ever came up with. More evidence and more of a reason to believe Tara Reade, especially while Joe Biden is dodging her, saying, oh, well, there's no evidence. She doesn't need to look. University of Delaware doesn't have to give access to any of the information she's asking for. Why not, Joe? Isn't that what I remember with Brett Kavanaugh? Before he became a Supreme Court justice, Democrats were demanding. That was Kirsten Gillibrand. That was Kamala Harris. That was Elizabeth Warren. They were all demanding that Brett Kavanaugh had to we have to investigate. We have to have the FBI investigate this. We have to make sure. We have to dig. And if we didn't find anything, we'll dig even more to find the evidence because he must have done something because that woman said so 40 years later and no one remembers it. No one knows anything that she's talking about. Not one person corroborated they didn't corroborate the event, the date, the actions, anything. But we had to believe her. Senator Hirono, Mazie Hirono out of Hawaii, said to all the men, shut up, believe this woman, get rid of Kavanaugh. Okay. These are the rules that Democrats set forward. And now, with Joe Biden under the gun for the very same thing, with more evidence and more proof, Democrats are saying, but Joe's a nice guy. So is Brett Kavanaugh. Joe's never done anything like that. Yeah, women are telling us, Joe never did anything like that. Yeah, same thing with Brett Kavanaugh. Lots of women said the same thing. Well, we have to believe this woman because, it's traumatic. And if there was any reason that she has any difference in her story, don't worry because it's a traumatic experience. So we believe her anyway. Well, what about Tara Reade? Well, that's all true. Yeah. We believe her, but we're going to side with Joe Biden anyway. I don't know how women's groups, can stand up for this. It's a smack in their face. They are being literally smacked in the face by the Democratic Party, being told, yeah, we believe you, but we don't care. Literally, that's the only answer you can come up with is, we believe you, but we don't care. Because we're hearing women who are coming out, we're listening to women and defenders of Joe Biden who are saying, no, we're going with Joe Biden. Yeah, we've heard the woman and we don't care. Which is completely 180 degrees different than what we heard before. And I have to say to myself, what does this mean? Where does this take us? Because I have to think that's even more of a reason why we keep hearing people like the LA progressives saying, Joe Biden's got to step aside. And there are people who are saying, there's a 50-50 chance Joe Biden isn't going to make it. Even though, people like Tucker Carlson, many of the Republicans are like, well, it's not that I don't believe Tara Reade. I'm not sure. We need an investigation. But according to the rules by Democrats, Joe's got to go. And that's why we're now seeing Bill Bennett say there's a 50% chance Biden won't be there. Now, in a recent poll that was done, which was done, and The Hill had spoken about it, again, this is 2 days ago on the 5th, 61% of Democrats believe Joe Biden. Here's the big thing about this in the Morning Consult poll. That means that 39%, almost 40% of Democrats don't believe Joe Biden. There's the thing. That's a huge number. And those people happen to be mostly somewhere around 18 to 35 years old. A bunch of them are voters. A lot of them are the brand new progressives and democratic socialists of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang. They are the left movement that all 26, 28 of the almost all of the 26, 28 Democratic nominees were all pandering to, running further and further to the left to get their vote. This is the future of the Democratic Party. The progressives are the future of the Democratic Party. And those progressives, 40%, do not believe Joe Biden. And they think Joe Biden has to go. Now, even in Politico, we're seeing that people are saying, Joe Biden, millennials, progressives, they're just not happy with this. They don't agree with this. The man is accused, and accusation equals guilt. Democrats told us that. They drilled it into our brains in 2018. Accusations equal guilt. That is the whole thing about Me Too. Accusation equals guilt. That happened to Al Franken. That happened. They tried to do it to Brett Kavanaugh and many, many others. How many people have lost jobs without ever having a single day in court? Not to say that people shouldn't be going to jail. I mean, yeah, Harvey Weinstein, go to jail. Bill Cosby, in jail. There's a lot of these guys that, yeah, they're getting exactly what they deserve. They should be in jail. But then again, they've also been, Harvey Weinstein's in trials. He's being convicted. Bill Cosby got convicted. The evidence was there, and they should be duly thrown in jail. But that's not the rule according to Democrats. The rule according to Democrats is you've been accused, therefore you are guilty, period. And they rammed that down against a bunch of Republicans all the way, saying, you've been accused, you're guilty. And therefore, you must give up. So I have to wonder if the left is willing to get rid of Biden, if this is not going to go away, which it could. I mean, there's people like Tucker Carlson saying, hey, we have to investigate this. Let's find out if this is real. Doesn't quite make sense. And he's right. Doesn't quite make sense. It's been a long time before she's actually made this accusation. Biden's been on the campaign trail a long time before they made the accusation. But, okay, let's say that this goes exactly as Democrats seem to think it might. And Joe Biden gets the nomination, He runs against President Trump. And the thing that President Trump's going to mention to every single voter out there, including the progressives and the leftists, and say, okay, here's your choice. You were upset with me for saying I grabbed the genital. That man did it. Joe Biden he actually did it. He actually grabbed the genital. I may have spoke about it if Trump would say that maybe he would speak about it, but Joe Biden did it. He physically actually did it. And if you're upset with President Trump for saying that, how can you not be even more upset at the man who actually did it? And by the rules of Democrats, the accusation equals guilt. And if it doesn't, then you don't believe in women. You're using women. You are using women. If you do not stand by accusation equals guilt as a Democrat, then you don't believe in women. You can say you are. You can say, oh, yes. No, you don't, because you have two different sets of rules. And one man is being held accountable to it, and another man isn't. And the only reason why, politics. And if you can't have it both ways with that. Either the rule is accusation equals guilt, and Biden's got to go. So even if he gets the nomination, Democrats should never vote for him. That's it. That's the Democrat rules. They set those rules up. Not Republicans. So, yeah, there's a great day there. But what if he's gone? What if we suddenly heard about this accusation because Democrats don't believe that Biden could win? What if they knew Biden was going to lose? So they needed to get rid of Biden. But they needed Biden to get rid of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders would have won if this came out a month, 2 months earlier. Actually, it came out in March. It did come out in March. No one was paying attention to it because we were talking about coronavirus. But if it came out just before the coronavirus, while Bernie Sanders was still in the race, Bernie Sanders would have won the nomination. How odd that no one in the media paid attention to this until after Bernie Sanders was out, in the middle of the coronavirus, when no one was really paying attention to it. Because it's been out for about a month. I think it was March 27th the accusation came out. So let's think about this. What if they wanted this to get rid of Biden and put someone else in his place? And there's a lot of people talking about Andrew Cuomo, which is scary, which is terrifying. Andrew Cuomo, who's been in office for 55 days under emergency powers that have no time limit. He has no time limit. As long as there is a crisis, he has emergency powers. And he is adamantly saying New York State can't go reopen. You can't reopen New York because there's an emergency, and this emergency is going to get worse. So we cannot rush to get rid of the crisis, which means you can't rush to get rid of his emergency powers. And in 55 days, he has changed 262 laws by himself, unilaterally, without telling anyone, without asking anyone, without any voters having any kind of control over it. And this is the guy they want to replace Biden with? I don't know. You want to replace Biden with Andrew Cuomo, a guy who drove 1.8 million of his residents out of the state. He drove out tens of thousands of businesses right out of the state. Before coronavirus ever happened, he lost $2 billion 2 years ago. He lost $6 billion a year ago. New York State lost $8 billion because of the policies of Andrew Cuomo. His economic policy has been such a burden. 1.8 million people, roughly 10% of the state, left. They left and said, we're not going to stay here. We can't do this. And he was on track for 2020 to lose $8 billion before coronavirus took hold. And this is the guy they want to run the Democratic Party. This is the guy they want to put up in place of Biden. I don't know. It amazes me. Maybe I'm just not catching it. I don't know. But you know what? I don't have to. Democrats. I know some Democrats, and I know many of the Democratic leaders in central New York. You watched this. Anthony Brindisi. You voted for Congressman Anthony Brindisi. You voted for Joe Biden for Speaker of the House. You support Joe Biden. Okay, please explain to me. Do you think Tara Reade is being truthful or not? If you believe she's telling the truth, are you going to denounce Joe Biden? Are you going to demand that Joe Biden steps down? You know, he's a congressman. He's a prominent Democrat, he says. He voted for Biden before everyone else. You support Biden. Okay. Then please tell me, do you believe that Tara Reade is telling the truth? And if you do, then you please explain to me how, with that accusation, you aren't demanding that Joe Biden step down. Please explain to me how that supports women from a Democratic Party point of view. And we can ask that of every single Democrat in New York State, in California, in Illinois, in all of the Democratic strongholds. Chicago, Baltimore. Let's hear it, guys. Please explain to us how you can believe this woman and not ask Joe Biden to step down. And if you don't believe the woman, please explain to me why just a year and a half ago you were screaming that we have to believe women and now you don't. It doesn't make sense to me. It only makes sense if Democrats don't care about the people they keep saying they care about. Just like they didn't care about having a primary in New York State, they didn't want the people to be involved. They took it away from them. Said, you don't get to vote. You can vote on the other primary races, but not for presidential. You don't count. See, we're starting to see through this coronavirus the truth. Democrats don't care. They don't. It's not because I think they don't care. It's their actions. When no one was paying attention, they got rid of a primary and told the voters, your vote doesn't matter. When no one was paying attention, they didn't want to talk about Tara Reade in a sexual assault, just like with Keith Ellison and his former fiancée. Don't want to talk about it. When they are being judged by the rules they set for everyone else, they don't like it. And I have to ask, for the voters out there, how do you support that? I talk to so many rank and file Democrats, and I know they don't believe in these things. Not like this. They don't believe in this back and forth. The rules sometimes count, sometimes don't count, only if it's based on your political beliefs. Where's your flowchart on this? How do you keep up with this? More importantly, as a Democratic voter, I want to ask those Democratic voters out there, how do you support that? Why do you support that? You got to judge your various candidates on a flowchart. Where do they stand? Where do we stand on this issue today? Does this apply to Democrats or just to Republicans? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? How bad of a thing is it? I mean, it's not as simple as this is an honest, straightforward person with a set of values. The values just change constantly. I don't get it. So I wanted to talk about it. And hopefully you want to talk about it. I want to hear what you think about it. You can text us at 607-242-1582. You can send a message to Twitter at MVConsult. You can contact us at Voss Political Commentary on Facebook. And of course, on YouTube, you can make your comments. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say about Democrats being proven to be involved in voter suppression and getting rid of people's votes. Because, yeah, they did, and they got caught, and they got shut down. But they made a point. They wanted to not have voters vote. Voter suppression by Democrats. What did you think about that? What do you think about Democrats who think, yeah, they believe Tara Reade, and they're going to vote for Joe Biden anyway? They think that Joe Biden committed a sexual assault, and they're going to vote for Joe Biden anyway. What do you think about all the people who are saying, hey, Joe's got to go? The rules stay the same for everyone. He's got to go. Tell me, what do you think? I look forward to hearing your answers. I'll talk to you soon.